Forget the horned helmets. Forget the muddy, unwashed barbarians swinging axes in the dirt. Everything pop culture has taught you about the Vikings is a carefully constructed historical illusion. Welcome back to Interesting Fact Lab. Today, we are tearing down the Hollywood mythos to look at the raw, biological, and psychological reality of the Norsemen, and more importantly, the Norse women who actually ran the empire from the shadows. We are going to walk through 24 hours in the Viking Age. You're about to discover a society where women held absolute financial power, where extreme personal hygiene was a matter of life and death, and where the dark psychology of survival dictated every waking moment. Take a breath. It's 6 a.m. in the year 900 AD. The fire in the longhouse has burned down to embers. Let's wake up. The day begins not with the sharpening of swords, but with a highly specialized biological defense mechanism: grooming. Archaeologists have unearthed more combs, tweezers, ear spoons, and razors from Viking graves than swords or axes. In a freezing, harsh environment, where a simple skin infection or a parasite infestation could wipe out a settlement, hygiene was an evolutionary necessity. By the time the sun crests the frozen fjords, our Viking ancestors are already washing their faces and hair. But here is the little-known fact. They engineered their own highly caustic soap. They boiled animal fat with wood ash to create a lye-heavy mixture. This soap didn't just strip away dirt. The high pH levels actively bleached their hair. Yes, the iconic Viking blonde wasn't always genetic. It was a chemical byproduct of their fight against head lice. Even an Anglo-Saxon cleric from the 11th century, John of Wallingford, bitterly complained in his writings that Viking men and women were too clean, seducing English nobles with their daily grooming habits, frequent baths, and fresh changes of clothes. By mid-morning, the men might be tending to the fields or the ships, but the true center of Viking power has shifted to the Husfreyja, the lady of the house. If you want to understand the hierarchy of a Viking settlement, don't look at who holds the biggest axe. Look at who holds the keys. In Norse society, the woman of the household wore a set of bronze or iron keys prominently on her belt. This wasn't just a tool, it was a profound psychological symbol of absolute domestic and financial authority. The Husfreyja controlled the food stores, the clothing production, and the treasury. In a landscape where winter could last for 8 brutal months, the person who controlled the calorie distribution controlled who lived and who died. And her power extended far beyond the pantry. Viking women possessed legal rights that women in the rest of Europe wouldn't see again for almost 1,000 years. They could own property, inherit vast estates, and run lucrative trading businesses. Most shockingly, they had the right to instant, unilateral divorce. If a husband was abusive, failed to provide, or, in one legally documented case, wore a shirt that was deemed too effeminate and showed too much chest, the wife could call witnesses to her front door, declare herself divorced, and legally take back half of all the household wealth. It is midday, and it's time to fuel the biological machine. To survive the freezing temperatures of Scandinavia, the Viking body required massive caloric density. Their gut microbiomes were highly adapted to a diet heavily reliant on fermented foods and dairy. The centerpiece of their diet wasn't just roasted meat, it was skyr, a thick, high-protein cultured dairy product that is technically a cheese, though eaten like yogurt. It was packed with probiotics, crucial for maintaining an immune system capable of fighting off diseases during the sunless winters. But their diet also had a dark side born of evolutionary scarcity. In places like Iceland, they practiced chemical preservation methods out of pure desperation. Consider hakarl, the meat of the Greenland shark. Fresh, this meat is packed with uric acid and trimethylamine oxide, making it violently toxic to humans. But the Norse figured out a biological hack. By burying the toxic shark in the freezing ground for months and letting it putrefy and ferment, the neurotoxins broke down. They literally turned poison into a long-lasting protein source. It is a testament to human adaptability, eating rotting, toxic sharks just to survive the winter. As the afternoon stretches on, the trading hubs like Burka and Hedeby come alive. The Viking world was not an isolated, frozen wasteland. It was the center of a massive, globalized supply chain. When you picture a Viking, you probably imagine dull brown leather and gray wool. The reality was a neon noir explosion of wealth. They loved bright, ostentatious colors. Wealthy women wore vibrant reds and deep blues dyed from madder root and woad. They traded slaves and furs for highly coveted Byzantine silks, silver dirhams from the Islamic caliphates, and even glass beads from India. But as the Husfreyja walks through the market, she might be accompanied by a very specific, highly valued companion. Not a wolf, not a raven, a cat. Cats held immense psychological and practical value in Viking society. The goddess Freyja, the deity of love, fertility, and war, famously rode a chariot pulled by two massive cats. Because of this, kittens were considered essential household protectors and were frequently given to new brides as an ultimate wedding gift. Biologically, they were pest control machines, protecting the vital winter grain stores from mice on the farms and on the longships. The sun begins to set, casting long, dark shadows across the settlement. This brings us to one of the most fiercely debated, yet scientifically proven facts of the Viking Age: the Shieldmaidens. For centuries, male historians insisted that Viking women stayed home while the men went to war. But modern DNA sequencing just shattered that illusion. In the late 19th century, archaeologists in Burka, Sweden, found a spectacular warrior grave. The skeleton was buried with a sword, an axe, a spear, armor-piercing arrows, 2 shields, and 2 sacrificed horses. For over 100 years, this grave, known as BJ581, was the ultimate textbook example of the alpha male Viking warlord. Until 2017. Scientists extracted genomic data from the warrior's tooth root and arm bone. The results caused a shockwave through the historical community. The DNA contained 2 X chromosomes and 0 Y chromosomes. The ultimate Viking warlord was a woman. Women in Viking society weren't just administrators. Some of them were highly trained apex predators. The biomechanics of Viking combat relied heavily on the shield wall, a tactic where coordination, endurance, and psychological resilience were far more important than raw upper body strength. In the brutal mathematics of warfare, a spear thrust from a woman kills you just as fast as one from a man. Night falls. The temperature plummets. The community pulls inward, gathering around the central fire of the longhouse. This is where the psychological conditioning of the Viking mind takes place. The Norse didn't have written textbooks. Their survival protocols were encoded into poetry and storytelling. And the ultimate psychological manual was the Havamal, the words of the High One, attributed to the god Odin himself. The Havamal is a masterclass in dark psychology and paranoia. It doesn't teach morality. It teaches survival in a treacherous world. Listen to the advice they whispered to each other in the dark. Never walk away from your weapons out in the fields, for you never know when a man might need his spear. A guest must depart again on his way, nor stay in the same place ever. If he bides too long on another's bench, the loved one soon becomes loathed. They lived in a hyper-vigilant state. Trust was a commodity more valuable than silver. The darkness of the longhouse was filled with tales of blood feuds, betrayal, and the harsh truth that nature is entirely indifferent to human suffering. As midnight approaches, the boundary between the physical world and the psychological world blurs. This was the time of Seder, Norse magic, and it was almost exclusively the domain of women. The vulva was a seeress, a woman who operated completely outside the normal social structure. She carried an iron staff, a phallic symbol of power, and traveled from town to town. Even the most hardened warlords feared the vulva. She understood human psychology, utilizing hallucinogenic herbs like henbane, found in many Viking graves, to induce trance states, manipulating the fears and hopes of the village. She didn't just predict the future. Through psychological dominance, she shaped it. Finally, the Longhouse goes to sleep. But even their biology of sleep was different. In the dead of winter, with 18 hours of darkness, humans naturally fall into a polyphasic sleep pattern. They would sleep for 4 hours, wake up in the middle of the night for a watch period, to tend fires, talk, or guard the doors, and then sleep for another 4 hours. Their circadian rhythms were perfectly synchronized with the harsh rotation of the earth. A day in the life of a Viking wasn't just mindless raiding. It was a masterpiece of biological adaptation, extreme hygiene, complex global trade, and a society where women wielded ironclad authority over life, death, and the supernatural. It was a beautiful, dark, and ruthless matrix of survival. If you want to keep unraveling the glitches in our history and biology, hit that subscribe button. This is Interesting Fact Lab, and we'll see you in the next deep dive. Stay curious